Hi, I am Peter Ekmark, CEO at Internet Vikings. I'm very happy to get this opportunity to speak with you about how to get a competitive advantage using technology in the US. The question is, can you really count on technology to give you the leading edge in today's iGaming market? I believe that it can, though perhaps not in the way one would expect. Many years ago, while I was preparing to apply for university, I often debated with myself as to whether I should choose to do a tech or a finance major. I choose technology because I have always been intrigued as to what humans are able to do with it and the huge difference in between the speed at which we have been developing it versus its relative cost. Here we see a distinct contradiction in terms. The better that it becomes, the less that it costs. And the pace at which it's being developed is breathtaking. A perfect example of this was the fact that most of what I'd learned while studying at university was already obsolete before I graduated. Thankfully, a similar lightning fast development does not apply if you study medicine, and we should be grateful for that. So, what about the development of technology within the iGaming world? iGaming has been around, roughly speaking, for 25 years. That's almost as long as internet has been available to the masses. In the very dawn of iGaming, you were stuck with a desktop PC and dial-up modems. This, though, did not stop the industry from evolving. And Malta issued its first iGaming license in 2001. Think about that for a second. That is 20 years ago. Time flies. Back in those days, the tech had to be located in Malta and at approved data centers. The servers actually had to be sealed. Sounds old school to you? Well, I think we are going to relive a similar circumstance in many parts of the US in the very near future. And mobile phones, they were not really being utilized for iGaming until 2010. Bit of a different story nowadays, don't you think? Today, most of the games that are being developed for iGaming are mobile only. Big difference. What about regulatory developments? Well, in Malta, you are now allowed to use cloud services, but there are still regulations in place that require you to host some of the data locally in the country. The US iGaming market seems to be the center of everyone's attention at the moment. The opportunities are potentially enormous, monumental even, but so is the challenge. This is where technology becomes truly fascinating and well worth strategizing. Currently, iGaming is offered geo-fenced in the US and regulated state by state. This means that each state needs to be regarded as if it was an individual country where you need to set up technology locally. Remember Malta, same thing. This is mainly caused by a federal law named the Wire Act, local tax rules, and legacy specific to each state. Furthermore, there are states which require servers to be sealed and located at approved data centers. Sounding familiar? 16 states are already open and 8 are soon to be opened for online gaming. But you will have to install your servers in every state and comply with local and applicable regulations. Operating and scaling up your technology in such competitive and highly complex environments will require a lot of extra manpower unless it's outsourced to a licensed hosting provider. Although the licensing requirements vary from state to state, they are typically divided into 3 categories. We have the highest level, which is the operator license. That applies to an entity that handles stakes, odds, and payouts, and obviously has access to everything related to providing the service. The second tier, which would apply to, for instance, a hosting service provider, is the supplier tier. We would then have to serve as an entity that provides software, hardware, has access to part of the data, or has a stake in the operator's success. The lowest tier is called the vendor license. That applies to an entity that provides goods or services to operators or service providers that not necessarily are designed for gambling. One can furthermore expect the licensing approval process to be both prolonged and cumbersome. And while on the subject of prolonged and cumbersome processes, let's not forget about the Privacy Shield invalidation, called Schrems II by the Court of Justice in EU. If you are active in any other market outside of the US, I would strongly encourage you to choose a European or at least a non-US hosting provider, as this is very likely to spare you from a number of legal challenges going forward. This is due to the incompatibility between the US Cloud Act and the European GDPR, not something that is likely to change anytime soon. Unfortunately, it is not within the scope of this presentation to delve into the details of this matter, but please feel free to reach out to me or check our website, internetvikings.com, for white papers on the subject if you have any specific questions regarding the Privacy Shield invalidation. Apart from the US being the hotspot for iGaming at the moment, we are also seeing a fast migration towards iGaming cloud hosting. The benefits are fundamental. You get lower cost, higher redundancy, lower latency, and improved safety. But perhaps most importantly, you get the ability to scale up and down if you need to. Simply put, cloud hosting abstracts away a lot of the infrastructure pain points for you. Perhaps you're suddenly thinking, okay, this is easy. Just use Google Cloud or AWS to set it up in Ireland or some other major European hub and run it from there. Not possible, I'm afraid. For a number of reasons, actually. US regulations, tax, and the Cloud Act, to name but a few. Okay, so what's the solution then? How can I use technology as a competitive edge in the US? To get the extra edge on the competition, you should consider the following as a baseline. Outsource. Please outsource and use cloud hosting services where available. Also try to reduce the number of providers to an absolute minimum. This will be so important once you are scaling up in the US in order to reduce the complexity and overheads. Make sure the provider you choose has a local license, particularly one that enables them to offer cloud services in every state where applicable. Also make sure that your provider knows iGaming and understands regulations and the implications of compliance requirements. I've said it before, please consider a non-US hosting provider simply because of the Privacy Shield invalidation. you will save a lot of time. And on that subject, automate as much as possible of your infrastructure setup, as you will be repeating it for each stay that you enter. Ensure the provider gives you full access to the infrastructure APIs to support your automation efforts. Ensure also that you get the flexibility you need to scale your environment. And last but not least, use a supplier that you can call and that you can have an established relationship with. This is so important. So, to wrap it all up, short about us. Internet Vikings was established in Stockholm 2008. We are a European-based supplier of hosting, domain names, and online brand protection. We are ISO 27001 certified. We specialize in iGaming tailored cloud hosting services with hubs ashore and in regulated jurisdictions across the globe. We will be offering our full suite of services in all regulated states across the US in the very near future. We are currently active with licensed hosting for iGaming in Michigan and West Virginia. We also offer our full suite of brand traffic protection and domain portfolio management services in the US market. We can also help you by consulting on licensing and requirements, as well as sourcing equipment. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon, or to see you in person once restrictions allow us. Until then, please stay safe and enjoy summer. I will. Take care. Thank you.